The smell of warm food drifted across the small cafe as a sharp winter wind pushed against the windows, but inside, everything felt strangely still. Moments like these often slip by unnoticed in ordinary days, but this one began with a sound that cut through the murmur of conversations and clinking dishes. A tiny voice behind him, soft yet brave, asking a question that would change 3 lives forever. Ryder Holt had come to that cafe to escape the relentless noise of business meetings, investors, and people who only saw the dollar signs attached to his name. But when he turned and saw a little boy with rosy cheeks, tugging shyly on his mother's sleeve while staring at Ryder's plate of fries, something inside him paused. The boy's mother looked mortified, whispering apologies, but the child repeated it again with innocent hope. "Can we share your fries, sir?" Ryder had spent his life surrounded by luxury supercars, penthouses, private jets, but in that moment, the pure honesty in that child's request cut deeper than any loneliness he had tried to bury with money. If stories like this remind you that kindness still matters, and that second chances can appear when we least expect them, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Ryder wasn't used to anyone speaking to him without calculation. Most people recognized him as the reclusive tech billionaire from Chicago, the man who had built an empire before turning 30. But this young woman didn't look at him with any of that awareness. She only looked embarrassed, protective, and exhausted. Her name was Aubrey Carter, though he did not yet know it. Her little boy, no older than 3, clung to her side, wearing a too-thin jacket for the cold. Her smile was warm but sad in the way only someone who has been fighting too many silent battles could smile. Ryder gently slid the plate toward them, watching the boy's eyes light up like the sun finally breaking through a storm. And in that reflection, Ryder saw something he hadn't felt in years. Connection. Aubrey tried to refuse, shaking her head and insisting they were fine, but the truth was written in every line of her posture. She looked like someone who hadn't sat down to enjoy a real meal in months. Ryder could tell, not because he judged her, but because he recognized the look. He had worn it himself once. Long before wealth built walls around him, he invited them to sit with him, and although she hesitated, the boy tugged her hand and she agreed. Ryder noticed everything, the worn fabric of her jacket, the faint bruises under her eyes from sleepless nights, the careful way she helped her son eat slowly, as if rationing every bite. Aubrey carried herself with dignity, even though life had clearly pushed her far beyond the edge of comfort. She didn't share much at first. She was polite, soft-spoken, and clearly trying to hide the truth. She didn't have enough money to buy her son a meal. Ryder didn't push her to open up. Instead, he simply listened, offering gentle observations about the cafe, the weather, the little boy's adorable fascination with ketchup. He didn't mention his wealth. He didn't mention his name. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he could simply exist without the weight of expectations. Aubrey relaxed as the minutes passed. She thanked him again, explaining quietly that times had been hard after her husband left without warning 2 years earlier. She worked 3 part-time jobs, cashier, hotel housekeeping, and overnight stocking, just to keep a roof over their heads. Most days she skipped meals so her son Noah could eat. Ryder felt something twist inside him. He had seen hardship in his life too, losing his parents young, growing up with relatives who resented him, sleeping in a car when he was 16, but the sight of Aubrey's unwavering devotion to her son struck him differently. She was fighting alone, giving everything she had, and still life pushed her harder. He watched Noah lean into his mother's arms with complete trust, and Ryder felt a quiet ache he didn't expect. Money had given him everything except the one thing this small family had between them: love. As they talked, the cafe remained warm and glowing around them, filled with soft lights and quiet conversations. But Ryder felt something shift. He wasn't just sharing food with strangers, he was sharing space with lives that would soon become part of his own story. Aubrey eventually apologized for taking up his time, trying to gather Noah's things to leave, but Ryder insisted they stay. He ordered more food, claiming he wasn't very hungry and they'd be helping him finish it. Aubrey smiled, clearly touched, and Ryder felt warmth in his chest at the sight. He had spent years surrounded by polished businessmen, socialites, and people hollowed out by greed. But here was a woman who apologized for needing help, even when she deserved so much more than she asked for. After the meal, Noah had fallen asleep on Aubrey's lap, his tiny hand holding onto the sleeve of Ryder's jacket as though he belonged there. Aubrey laughed nervously, trying to pull Noah's hand away, but Ryder gently placed his own hand over the child's and told her it was perfectly fine. That simple touch, that small gesture, felt like the first real human connection he had allowed himself in years. When they finally prepared to leave, Aubrey dug through her purse trying to repay him for the fries, even though she clearly had almost nothing in her wallet. Ryder stopped her with a soft smile, telling her it had been his pleasure, and for the first time since he met her, she looked like she might cry. Over the next week, Ryder found himself returning to the cafe every afternoon, something he had never done before. It was the only place where he had felt a sense of peace, and the possibility of seeing Aubrey and Noah again tugged at him more than he cared to admit. On the third day, as he sat quietly with a coffee, the bell over the cafe door chimed. And there they were, Aubrey with her gentle smile and Noah waving excitedly when he recognized him. Ryder felt a warmth spread through him stronger than the sunlight streaming through the windows. They talked again for hours that day, then again the next, each time sharing more. Aubrey told him about the dreams she once had, becoming a nurse, owning her own little home, raising Noah in a neighborhood where he could run freely and feel safe. But life had taken everything from her too quickly for her to keep up. Ryder listened, feeling protective instincts rising in him in a way he had never felt before. He wanted to help her, but he didn't want to scare her or make her feel small. He wanted to give without making her feel like a charity case. And so he kept his identity hidden. He let her see him only as Ryder, the man who enjoyed their company, not Ryder Holt, the billionaire who owned half the city. Days turned into a week, and that week turned into something deeper. Ryder realized he was thinking about Aubrey when he woke up, and before he went to sleep. He found himself smiling at memories of Noah trying to feed him fries, or telling him proudly that he wanted to grow tall like Mr. Ryder. When Ryder finally found the courage to invite Aubrey and Noah for lunch outside the cafe, Aubrey hesitated, not wanting to take advantage of his kindness, but eventually agreed. That lunch changed everything. Aubrey opened up about the eviction notice she had received, about the landlord who refused to give her extra time, and about the fear that came every night when she didn't know how to save them. Ryder felt something inside him break. He wanted to lift every burden off her shoulders, but he had to do it carefully. He asked where she lived and insisted on driving them home afterward, since it was getting dark and bitterly cold. She reluctantly agreed. When Ryder pulled up to the run-down apartment building with flickering hallway lights and broken steps, he felt heartbreak and fury twist together inside him. The city he helped build on the tech side had forgotten people like her, people who deserved better. Before they parted that evening, Ryder gently told her that she deserved the world, and that one day she would have it. Aubrey laughed softly at his encouragement, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, not knowing he meant every word literally. The next morning, Ryder used his resources, but quietly, discreetly, and without drawing attention to himself. He paid off her overdue rent anonymously and arranged for the landlord to offer her a safer, newly renovated unit in the same building at a much lower rate. He also set up a fund for Noah's childcare so Aubrey could take a medical training program, something she had dreamed of for years. She didn't know any of it was connected to him. A week later, when Aubrey rushed into the cafe breathless and overwhelmed, she told Ryder everything about the sudden miracle that had happened, the landlord's kindness, the unexpected opportunities, the second chance that life had never given her before. Ryder listened quietly, hiding the warmth that spread through him. She thanked God for sending help, tears shining in her eyes. Ryder only smiled, knowing she deserved every bit of goodness coming her way. But the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. One evening, as Ryder left the cafe, he didn't notice a news crew across the street filming a segment about Chicago's wealthiest entrepreneurs. When the reporter called out his full name, Aubrey, who had followed behind him to give Noah's forgotten toy, froze. She turned slowly, shock filling her face as she heard the words, "Billionaire tech innovator Ryder Holt." Ryder's heart stopped. He turned to her, realizing what she had heard, and in that moment, fear rippled through him. He wasn't afraid of losing her because she wanted his money. He was afraid of losing her because she might think their connection had been a lie. Aubrey stepped closer, her voice trembling, asking why he had never told her. Ryder's answer was simple, because he never wanted her to feel small next to him, and because being with her and Noah was the first time he had ever been seen as a human being, not a bank account. Tears spilled down Aubrey's cheeks, not out of anger, but because no one had ever valued her like that before. She whispered that she didn't care about the money. She cared about the man who shared his fries with her child, the man who listened, the man who showed up when life was suffocating her. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness still changes lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can experience stories like this. Before the ending, please comment "Kindness lives on" to show the world you believe in hope. Ryder gently wiped her tears, and Noah ran into his arms as though nothing in the world had changed. In that cold evening air, surrounded by city lights, Ryder realized that the greatest fortune he ever found wasn't in his bank account. It was in the small family standing in front of him. And Aubrey, with her soft smile and trembling hands, realized she had finally found someone who didn't save her because she was broken, but because she was worth saving. Their story began with a simple question from a hungry child, and it grew into something bigger than all three of them. And from that night onward, none of their lives were ever the same again.